Hello once again to my video series on Fakemon. This is episode 2, which covers game mechanics that can be useful to you as you go about creating your Fakemon. We're going to be going for a broad and shallow approach this episode, rather than going into extensive detail of how complex mechanics play out during gameplay. I'm going to, for the most part, focus on lightly touching upon a few of the mechanics in the ways where they're relevant to aspiring Fakemon creators. I'm just going to talk about the Pokemon themselves. Mechanics that are about the bigger picture of the game, such as Auras's dex nav or story related content, isn't going to be covered here. That's it, on with the video. In our first segment, we're going to be covering the mechanics I consider to be aesthetic mechanics. While these mechanics may be involved in gameplay in some significant form or another, I consider these to be mechanics that are imperative to think about when deciding on the appearance, or aesthetic, of your Fakemon. Even if you only want to draw designs for the new Fakemon and don't care about giving them gameplay features, these are gameplay mechanics that you should still keep in mind. The first aesthetic mechanic I want to cover, and arguably one of the most important considerations to make when it comes to the design of your Fakemon, is the Pokemon's type. A type is something every Pokemon has. As of the making of this video, there are 18 possible types to choose from. Pokemon can have 1 or 2 different types, and they can choose their type from the following: Normal, Flying, Fighting, Poison, Ground, Rock, Bug, Ghost, Steel, Fire, Water, Grass, Electric, Psychic, Ice, Dragon, Dark, and most recently introduced, Fairy. Each of these types and combination of types carries with it their own connotations as to what the Pokemon is inspired by and does. For example, most water-type Pokemon are based on aquatic or semi-aquatic animals. Alternatively, typings can be used to subvert expectations as a part of a clever design concept. The Pokemon Sudowoodo is designed after a tree, but is part of the rock type, as it's inspired by the concept of one Pokemon mimicking the type of another. You can use the type of a design in many ways to influence it. Some people start with a type they want to fill and then, from there, find a concept that relates to the type. Others will take a concept they find interesting and attach a type to it as a way to influence said design, such as the Sudowoodo example I showed earlier. The second aesthetic mechanic I consider important enough to mention in this video is the concept of Pokemon evolutions. Now that's regular evolution, not mega evolution we're talking about here. Evolution is the mechanic in which a Pokemon can permanently change its appearance and gameplay statistics up to and including its type as a response to a certain condition. Any Pokemon can evolve a maximum of twice. That said, some Pokemon will evolve once or not at all. Not only that, but a few Pokemon have split evolutions and can evolve into one of 2 or more forms given specific conditions are met. Evolution can be used as an effective tool to tell a sort of story within your Pokemon. The best evolutionary lines, as far as I'm concerned, expand upon the concept of the original form showed, or gives it a twist. It's worth noting that a large number of Pokemon who are considered to have good evolutions expand on the original concept. For example, Bulbasaur's concept is a toad-like creature with a bulb on its back. Its evolutions then expand upon this concept with the overarching story of the bulb growing and then eventually blooming into a flower. It's important to consider if you even need an evolution for your Fakemon. While it's no cardinal sin to have your evolution be simply a bigger version of the previous form, I'd advise at least thinking about if the concept you wish to tell would be better off with only 2 or 1 evolutionary stages. You might also want to consider the method of evolution. While most Pokemon evolve just by leveling up, many require special conditions. It would take too long to go into detail for all evolution methods, but some of the more common methods include leveling up, requiring a high enough friendship, being given a certain item, being a certain gender, trading, and many more. As with type, you can use the method of evolution as a means to tell a particular story in your Fakemon. Now, after those largely aesthetic focus features of a Pokemon, next are these gameplay mechanics. While evolution and especially typings have a big impact on the gameplay of a Pokemon, what I'm calling gameplay mechanics are features of a Pokemon that typically don't influence the design itself, but are instead used when putting a Pokemon into a game in order to emphasize and give credence to that Pokemon's design. Our first gameplay mechanic is the Pokemon stats. Each Pokemon has an HP, attack, defense, special attack, special defense, and speed stat. When designing your Fakemon, give it stats that fit with its evolutionary stage and design concept. For example, the first in a 3-stage line of powerful but physically frail Pokemon will have a much lower HP stat than the final stage of a big hefty Pokemon. By choosing the right stats for your Pokemon, you can make it play in battle the way it appears it should, or you could subvert expectations as a twist. The next most notable gameplay mechanic are abilities. Each Pokemon can have one abilities from a list of several possible ones, each of which work as passive features that are either always active or trigger when certain conditions are met. Like with stats, abilities can support the theme you're going for a Pokemon. For example, our friend Snorlax can have the ability Gluttony, which makes it eat held berries earlier than normal. This further emphasizes its concept as a fat Pokemon. Abilities can also substitute for types in some cases. For example, Vikavolt is a bug and electric type, but in order to show that this Pokemon is capable of flying without swapping out one of those types, it's also given the ability Levitate, which makes it immune to ground type moves. One other mechanic that can be used to push the design is the gender ratio. In official canon, Pokemon can be one of 3 genders: male, female, and genderless. They also have a % chance of being one gender over another. While not a significant feature, in some cases they can be used to further push the design of the Pokemon. As one example, the bull Pokemon Tauros is 100% male, compared to the cow Pokemon Meltank, which is 100% female. This simple feature further pushes the already gendered design. Gender can also influence other mechanics. For example, Combee is only able to evolve if it's a female, which mimics its real-life inspiration, where hives are led by a larger female queen. Now, there's so many mechanics in Pokemon I could discuss, but I feel like the things I've already covered really hit the core, and a couple secondary features of what gameplay can influence and be influenced by the design of your Pokemon. But if you're really interested in the real nitty-gritty of a Pokemon's mechanics, I can direct to some resources for competitive mechanics. For some reference data, you can always go to Bulbapedia. With this comprehensive resource on Pokemon can provide you with all relevant data on all canon Pokemon. Being able to compare your works to the official stuff is highly recommended even when it's just a design, but is especially useful when trying to come up with viable stats. Smogon, a leading influence in the competitive Pokemon battle scene, has their own Fakemon subcommunity. For those who have an interest in creating Pokemon that can be used in a game, they have the Create a Pokemon subforum, where people can create and submit Fakemon. If it's deemed well balanced enough, it can even go through to the official list and be used in its own Fakemon inclusive battle scene in Pokemon Showdown, an online Pokemon battling website. Thank you all for tuning in to the second episode of my Fakemon video series, and I hope that even if you knew all this stuff, I still got you to think a bit differently about how the mechanics can influence your designs. This got done a lot sooner than I expected, so I hope that sooner than expected hasn't been too long for all you nice folks out there. If you can, I'd really appreciate if you could like the video and share it with any other fans of Pokemon you know. That sort of stuff really helps me out. Be sure to subscribe, and you can also follow me on Twitter or Instagram. Moreover, I'd love for you to share your thoughts in the comments so we can really get a conversation going, and for you to tell me what you think of the direction the series is going in. I'm Bob the Seagull King, and thank you for watching. Sayonara.